need mine, I don't need it.
Thank you.
I'll have it there. I'll get up there.
I have it fun.
Oh.
All right.
The other night, had a regular meeting. 2 minutes.
I'm gonna go ahead and call you.
And for the record, it's 4:27.
Right. Father God, thank you for letting us gather here today on this beautiful day. Keep us in your arms of kindness and while we make these decisions about money for our county, watch over those who need health and security and safety in these times of illness. Let their families have comfort in your arms. In your name I pray, amen. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for
I'm not sorry.
Go ahead and call the roll. Thank you. I'll go ahead and call the roll and also want to note for the record that because we went out to the park to take some pictures, we actually just started the meeting just a minute ago about at 4:20. So I just wanted to make sure folks were aware of that. And so if I might, the quorum, Ms. Bechtel,
Here.
Ms. Cookenbook. Here. Mr. Cox.
Here.
Mr. Booth.
Present.
Thank you. And Mr. Turner.
Here.
All right, thank you, as a full count.
I'm starting to go young. New military.
So, Mr. Chairman, for our budget workshop this evening, we had a couple of things we wanted to chat with you about. And actually, the first two involve Kevin. And so he and I have been having some conversations with Motorola and others related to radio towers. And so I wanted to update you and get your thoughts on some of the things that, some of the actually very creative ideas Kevin's had about how to try to solve some problems. So appreciate that. And then he was going to update you and we were going to talk a little bit about elections funding. And then the remaining two things are myself. Okay. Sorry, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Unfortunately, I'm not gonna disclose amounts or anything like that, but, if you want numbers, you can ask me, after this is over or whatever, but, the expense of power space, for the radio project is extremely high. So high that I'm of the mindset we could probably build our own and have them paid for in 4 years. Unexpected cost, but I don't want to. I could pull this trigger, but it's not the right way to go. It's too much money. Now, a little backside on this, AT&T has come in and they've built towers through Floyd to satisfy their end of the contract with the state of Virginia for FirstNet, which is a public safety network for police, fire, rescue. It isn't about radios. It's about cell service, cradle points. It's in police cars, EMS computers to talk to the hospitals. It's more about cellular right now instead of radio, but that's where the technology is going. Over the next few years, AT&T is going to invest, I think it was $69 billion between government and AT&T all the way across the nation. So it's a lot of money. But what kind of, we've stumbled across, and it was actually in one of AT&T's, articles. It mentions Floyd and the towers that it's building for public safety. And these same towers are the ones that AT&T sold these towers to companies like Crown Tower, American Tower Company. And they're very proud of their real estate. So, Dr. Millsap, being as creative as she is, she wrote him an email yesterday asking to have a meeting, and hopefully we'll have a meeting and bear fruit. But there's also another side of this. If that meeting doesn't produce fruit, I've looked at some alternative sites, and I've kept 2 or 3 things in mind. Is how far we have to lay cable or fiber, and driveway upkeep, etc. I've tried to keep these locations close to the main roads. Just overall cuts down. I've identified a few places, and I think they will work very, very well. There won't be no rent. Like I say, it's most likely we'll pay off the towers in a year per tower. Anyway, some placements of towers are going to be in a few locations that it wasn't previously. Like one will be in the valley, one will be towards Green Mountain Church instead of Lower Fort. I've talked to one of the landowners on the Green Mountain side. He's very interested, but he wants towers strong enough to hold up a cell service, so we'll have to look at that. The other ones, there's an existing tower site that only has one tower, one cellco company on it. It's owned by a private citizen. And I was going to get some assistance working on that, but I've heard that it's a conflict of interest, so I'm on that one again. And the other one, I know the owner, and it's real close to the road, and I think he would go along with it if it's for public safety. I guess the question I have is, you guys need to be thinking, if we do rent tower space, how much can the county afford to rent? Is there a dollar figure? I know that times are hard, and that's why I'm coming to you guys. You got to make some smart decisions. The radio system itself is a lot of money, but Dr. Millsap sat in on a meeting today, and there was some cost savings of $90,000 to $100,000 that she worked out with Motorola. There's some items that was in the contract, but there's some cost savings there. But I know that it's hard to say $90,000 or $100,000 not a lot of money, but it is. But it isn't on a project this size. But we're working on it. And like I say, I think you need to keep that in mind for the budget.
And you assess these new potential sites as far as the percent coverage and the impact?
I've been careful not to release site locations or anything because, no, I'd have to have Motorola to run those numbers. I may could get federal engineering
I was
too.
thinking that federal.
I'm a little worried about, all right, there's some, yeah, okay.
I know, I know, if you understand what I'm saying, then.
I think a lot of time that's the best way to say this, a lot of time these communication folks work a lot together behind the scenes. And I'm just being very careful with what information you put out.
Well, I was just wondering, yes, the dollars are important, but that coverage and protection for our personnel,
Yeah.
that increase for the coverage was one of the reasons, we needed to do this, but that was one of the big selling points too, the increased coverage. And I'm talking, you know, in the same ballpark. If we're in the same ballpark, then you don't think we will?
We were paying, let's see, 0.
Right.
And, the one tower site, it went up because we went up 10 foot on antennas. It went up $1,300 a month.
No, I'm talking about your percent coverage. You know, we're
Oh.
shooting for 95%, is what we were shooting for or better
Right.
with these new sites. That's what I'm talking about, not the money side. I'm talking about the
Okay.
percentage coverage side.
I've identified a site that may be a future site, but that site belongs to PSA and it's on like, I think the second highest peak in the county, and we could utilize it for tower. If you know where I'm talking about.
Oh, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Okay. All right. I think that may be the only place where we'll have a little. The valley should be covered better. Willis should be covered great. Locust Grove down into Shawsville, Pike, Lafitte, different locations should be better. The only one that's going to suffer is fortunately Jerry. But that don't mean that a little bit later we can't. But it may not affect it at all. I got to run the numbers.
Well, see, off on Floyd.
Right, right.
So you that.
And they're also putting up another, it'd be AT&T tower. It's,
Can I have a question on that?
yes,
If we didn't stick to the plan and rent, and we do our own, somewhere before we make that decision, we need to know, is it dropping the percentages, or, you know, how bad it's dropping? I mean, if we go from 95 to 93, I'm saying jump on it, because that's still adds,
Right.
right.
you know what I'm saying?
Higher you go, the better your coverage, especially if it's got clear.
When you get ready to do the ones, within the next 2 years, the one you, or at least between now and December, the one you're talking about, depends on what happens. I think you could get 3 votes to let you put whatever you want to. We might have
The
that.
problem I run into when we first started down the rabbit hole, I was looking for towers used, and I found some new ones that were 100 foot for like $11,000, $12,000 a pop, brand new, and that ain't gonna help us. It needs to be at the highest point. These antennas are 20 foot. So we need a tower 140 foot to reach that. The other tower's 120, or the other antenna's 128 foot. So if we get,
To build a bigger.
yeah,
That's right.
yeah,
That's right.
40 foot of concrete's gonna cost some money. But,
If I might, Kevin,
But anyway.
if I might, so in terms of the coverage, what we talked to Motorola about today was we're looking at doing a combination of maybe leasing some, because we did have one of the companies that started to move down a little bit. Maybe putting some of our own up, maybe on private property, maybe some on public property. And so we were saying maybe we send you as many as, say, 8 different locations that are potential possibilities. And you all mix and match and tell us before, we have to have initial conversations, obviously, but before we sign anything or anything along that line, that we would find out from them what allows us to maximize and how close we can get. And then something Kevin doesn't know, because I talked to Steve since I talked to you last, is Steve thinks part of the way we can help in this process is have a conditional use permit requirement. And so when he gets here, if you want, he can maybe talk to you about that a little bit more, because in some other jurisdictions, Kevin's reached out to some of his counterparts, and it used to be that public safety got to hang on the tower for free or $1.
Correct.
Now they're talking between $2,000 and $3,000 per month per tower. And so we've explained to them that, there's less than 16,000 people in the community. And when you start talking that kind of money per person, that I said, if I were in Fairfax, they wouldn't even let me pack my stuff. They would just, assume that I knew I was fired. So you're not helping me and me. Is kind of where we went with it. So that's to your question. That's what we're hoping to do is Kevin's done a lot of really good research on different options and places. He's burned up a lot of gas driving around trying to find high spots.
We planning on 5. One landowner owns land in 2 different locations in your district that we may could benefit, but I was looking kind of geographically, and there's one piece of county property that we wouldn't have to worry about acquiring, and it may help our coverage. And it was in the one area where we wasn't talking about putting the tower.
What I'm getting at, if we're renting 5 at 3,000 a month,
It's $9,300, wait a minute.
a month,
See, I'm so 49. It's $9,300 a month.
so
for all of it. You can buy, well, if it's my money, I ain't gonna do
It
that.
is your money. That's not, I mean, it's everything in the town's money. So I would assume that this AT&T meeting is to remind AT&T of its public health and safety, reason why these towers have gone in this county to begin with, and now that we're trying to upgrade our radio system, I would assume that this is the tack we're taking. And yeah, the second part of that question is, in terms, I think, of what Barry was saying, we have to wait for Motorola to get you the areas covered as in terms of,
They'll give us a guarantee, but I think I can get federal engineering to run.
but if the Motorola is talking to federal engineering, that's part of your issue.
You know,
Yeah.
I could talk off the record more
Right,
in
with
detail.
them. And then,
Not trying to hide anything, it's just
so
what it is.
currently, the radio system that we have now has how many towers?
2.
And we need to go up to 5,
And I'll explain that.
maybe 7, or,
Analog travels a little bit
yes, I
different,
know.
and you can have static and still pick it up. Digital, it's either on or it's
It's
off.
off, yeah, you have to get high enough above so you can carpet. All right,
Yeah.
correct.
No, the line of sight
There are none.
thing kind of went away when we decided we'd go with fiber.
Right,
And eventually fiber will, AT&T, they don't have the technology right now to make portable radios for public safety. Just not.
oh, they do.
Well, I'm sure, but we're years from seeing it. But that's where this is going. You're going to be using cell service for public safety radios.
But I will remind everybody that if everything went down, that was the thing that went down.
Yeah.
Cell systems went down hard.
And I apologize to the board. This is something that me and Linda have been talking about a whole lot, and nobody else seemed interested in talking about it until now, and now we see why. It's an unforeseen cost that I completely understand the board's being cautious about it, and I didn't foresee it, and I understand if you guys have got questions for me on this later, I can totally understand it. But again, me and Linda's worked on this, and I know she has grown to respect me more since she has worked with me close on this project. That's right. But, now we're working on it and we hope, we told Motorola that we was gonna wait to hear from you guys, but I know it's a big decision. And you guys are gonna have to probably talk amongst yourselves.
You're moving forward. Okay,
To a degree.
I mean, certain amount, there's other things they could be doing, to keep the ball rolling.
If I might, so to some extent, although we're already a couple of weeks behind because we started to sense this was happening. And so part of our strategy was Kevin put on the brakes a little bit with them and didn't pick up the phone quite as often to help them understand this is really important, which I think was very successful because all of a sudden they came back with, oh, we can make this other adjustment to the contract for the neighborhood of $100,000. So I think that's been helpful, but really we were supposed to be able, was it May 5th, I think was the day that was built into the project plan that all of that would be done. So we are a little bit, there are some other things, but they're starting to run out of those. I see.
Don't drag our feet too long, but we're gonna be smart.
That's the good part. I think we'll have to. Richard, it's- because just purely dollars. We're gonna have to- And we may have to, 2 years from now, add some things, pick that up that we might lose. We were talking about doing that with the Floyd Tower anyway, laying in.
I don't think the Floyd site's gonna be all that much affected by this move, but if it is, I've already thought of a solution there. There's a place PSA owns that would make a good place for them to go. Not putting a plug in there, but it's a good spot. And I do want to push you guys, when self-service started years ago, you went with US Cellular and you had coverage about 10 miles in Floyd. More towers go up, the speed has went up. We really need to look at y'all need to talk to Steve about some requirements.
Additional use permits.
Yes. I'm not saying the O word. I'm just saying that they're, maybe there's a lot of questions on taxes as far as these towers go that it's still, because some of them's private, but they get paid rent. I want to be the nice guy and work with everybody, but when you get $9,300 a month handed to you, gloves are off.
Yeah.
Well, and if I might add to that, so yeah, it could be even more. One of them came down to 2,000. Some of them were as high as 3,000. One is less because we're already there. But pretty much all of them are a 5% increase each year, and you sign a 20-year contract. So that gets back to the maybe putting up our own if we can manage that. Now
What a wonderful country we live in.
right, so we originally, Kevin had asked the Motorola and Federal to kind of price out a tower. But what they priced out was a full tower, assuming we wanted to get into the cell tower business and start renting out space ourselves. And we said, no, that's not it. We want a tall stick that just has the our stick with the 100 pounds of stuff we have to have. And we'd like it to be on a really high place close to a major road because that'll also help keep the cable costs down. And so because the other ones are, some of these other sites that we'd originally chosen are pretty far off the beaten track. So there would have been a lot of of work there. They did raise some questions. One person did raise questions with us when we brought this up in our call with Motorola and Federal about, well, we might have some environmental issues. So we reminded them that we were moving less than an acre and less than 10,000 feet of disturbance, so it shouldn't be an issue. And then they said, well, you might have some local ordinances. I was like, turns out we don't. So I'm hopeful that we'll be able, by doing our own smaller stick tower, if we do that, we'll be able to avoid some of those challenges.
Picture in your mind of what this tower is holding is 84 pounds, 2 antennas at 20 foot. That's it.
Right.
A small window that's 20 foot tall. That's it. So it doesn't have to be an elaborate. Now, if y'all want to get into cell tower business, it's expensive.
No.
But now one of these places we may have to because they don't have cell coverage in that area. So I don't know.
Guess we could let AT&T worry about that.
Yes, they will have to. But if they work with us, we'll work with them.
Yeah.
Um,
Well,
what $3,000?
and productive.
We'll see. I mean, they did put a press release out a little more than a year ago touting that Floyd County
Yeah.
was one of their
First.
launch points and that there are 3 towers. So that's what we reminded them when we reached out to them.
I remember it. Yeah.
Yeah. But we felt like we needed to let you know because at the maximum cost, we're talking in the neighborhood of about $100,000 a year once this is done. And so that's yes. Yeah. So we're hoping to do a lot better than that, but that's kind of first blush. That's about where we're coming. And that was very unexpected. To Kevin's point.
That's very discouraging. I had other things I could be working on and you're back at it again. So, do y'all want to talk to the other part? Or, I mean, that's it.
Fix it over here. The first year. Then the next year, these, you could address other. And not, or that's just me talking. Speaking for everybody, but you could address a lot more areas over the country. Still versus.
Well, I think it boils down to how much these towers cost, because 100 foot's, I don't think it's gonna help us as much as you would think. We need anywhere 140, 150 foot.
You just get a 200-foot tower?
You gotta be careful with the 199. 200's the magic number.
Right.
Well, the 100-foot towers for the tower themselves. Well, 150, 20, 25 for the tower itself. Now, that changes your pace that you have to the base of it.
Yeah.
But even at that, you're still coming out. Like I said, the first year you can put 4 towers up and spend the same money with every lease in the rest of it.
These one towers that were $14,000, they were designed for windmills, and I've talked to Mark about it. Unless we have engineering designs that will work with them, he's not willing to use them. And I understand that.
Well, what about the gate? That's just for the tire, but what about the gate?
Oh, there's additional costs in this. But I think locally we can control the cost. It costs us a fourth of what we would have to pay. Said persons. Huh?
Unless,
Still, it's gonna take a lot of cable.
Yeah.
unless we keep it close to the road.
Yeah.
Well, the fiber going to it, yeah. And we already got shelter cost, we got generator costs, all we would be doing is paying for concrete, tax incentive, and, crew to put it in.
Could you get ballpark that you're tired?
I've been talking with federal engineer on that yesterday, and I'll reapproach it. Try to get a ballpark.
How much that is the income?
Oh, I know.
Bites.
Yeah, but that,
111,000 a year for the towers we've got, plus a 5% increase every year for 20 years.
yeah,
I understand that. I'm not saying no.
I know.
I just like to.
No, up front.
Oh, yeah.
As much as you can.
Absolutely.
When somebody asks me, I'm gonna be able to give them
I agree. And I should have that cost for you, but we've been back and forth, and it has been keeping me out of trouble. 'Cause
Yeah.
I don't have much patience when it comes to a lot of stuff.
that. She's pretty sharp.
Yes, she is. She is. Now, hold on, let's just call them. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions on that one? And I'm free anytime, email, phone.
How soon do you need a final decision on that? Do you need a decision before our next meeting?
No, I don't think so. I think what we need to make sure is that you consider keeping some availability in your reserves and in your budget. So when we get there,
Yeah.
you'll be able to do something. if you need to. But
And this is still gonna be a 2-year project, so we. Yeah,
Put them up next week.
no, no, but some of this stuff's gotta be ordered and to keep us from getting fined, by delaying contract. Alright. Nick?
Isn't that enough?
No.
Oh,
no, election.
Oh,
Oh. And
This is good news.
that's good news, I think. It's better than what I just.
93% good.
Yes. No.
Yeah, you can.
Through Danny's hard work and working with Amy Ingram from the elections, we've started the process of getting the check marks on their compliance taken care of. There's a couple items we need to address sooner than later. So, because once some of this stuff starts, all the checks are gonna just fall in place. But here is some dollar figures for you. We thought the training was free, but it's actually kind of free if you think of it. It's $3,000 for 3 years. And Danny, I can't remember the name of that. Was it?
No before was the
No, I didn't know before. What was it?
was that the one?
Yeah, he was no before. Anyway, they to have access to that for 3 years, $3,000, but we couldn't facilitate that in house, and it's several different training classes, and it'd be good for them. And Danny has to take some of it.
And
Three.
this is being, the state is mandating that we go to these classes.
State mandated, but they have made it a lot easier than what it was when this all started.
Okay, and are they paying for it?
No.
So it's an unfunded mandate.
Yeah, but I think the numbers will make you feel better after we get to the end.
Okay.
That's one-time cost there, 3 years, which I'm sure they'll have to re-up that. Software yearly through Microsoft is $300. There's a password, what would you call it?
Authentication.
Kind of
Yeah, a password management tool.
Yeah, password management thing where they can have 10 users because they can't share passwords, so they all have to have a user account, and that's $1,440. Just follow me. That's yearly. Firewall switches, one-time cost of $1,217. And Citizen Internet, $80 a month, $960 a year. For them to have their own secure network, it don't touch ours, we don't touch theirs. It's a dream come true. So the one-time cost, and I'm sure we're missing an extension cord or a Cat5 wire somewhere in here, is $69.17 a year. Or this year. That's up front. To get all the equipment in, get them secured. Then it's $2,700 a year for just yearly cost to have their own network. And it will, instead of training 150 people how to be secure, we only have to train 10. And most of it's 2, except for a few times a year. Anything you want to add to that, Denny?
I think you covered it.
I'd like it, a man that's short on comments.
No funds from the state of Virginia for any of this.
Negatory man.
But
No
that's-
grants available anywhere for this?
That would be a question for Amy. I don't know what's available to election folks. I'm
Okay.
sorry.
No, that's okay. I'm just
I'm just a
asking the question.
facilitator for this grand opportunity to make IT and election folks work good together.
It's not near as much as I was expecting.
Yeah, it isn't either, but it sure would be nice to have some grant dollars
Well, it would.
since they're, yeah.
Their mandate, especially since after their little snafu here a week or month or so, where they released everybody's information public.
Yeah.
And
Well, we're going to a board meeting in Baco tomorrow. This might come up. Thank you for this timely information.
Okay. And if you need anything, just ask Danny.
Yes, Kim?
So, and just because, sometimes I have the pleasure, overhearing the meeting and, spoke with Amy, and especially with regards to the one-time training and a couple of other things, in the present fiscal year, her budget can absorb it.
Yeah.
So for planning purposes, for the one-time fees, I believe she has, it would be, just moving, but she has it, yeah. That is correct.
Good.
I think it's when it's going to be $150,000 a year. And
They had for 6917.
but I think the state,
Yeah, they do.
I think they get a lot of pushback. And rightly so. I mean, security is one thing, but to throw that on the locality. Not good. Especially, veterans.
And I think the other thing that I would note, just as Kevin was saying, the state did back off some of their earlier requirements from some of the previous folks. And and they've been very, very helpful in conversations and really have been all about trying to help us move forward and do so reasonably. So I think that's been really good. And when Danny and Kevin kind of redid our analysis, it also turned out that we were in a little better spot than we originally thought. And these changes that they're suggesting move us very far down the road. So really appreciate all their work and Amy's on this.
And this money comes out of the electoral board's budget request or the general election request?
They can absorb it in either.
Okay. So they could split it if they wanted to between the two or whatever.
Yeah,
Okay, thank
and
you.
that's something that Amy and I could work with, or wherever she
Sure.
chooses the appropriate expenditure line.
Excellent. All right, great. Yeah, that would be up to them. It might be better to allocate it that way, especially some of the trainings, since more of the people are not just the registrar staff, there will be some that total board. It would be good to get the, things. But I know you will have that in hand and work together with the registrar.
This is the IT side of it. There's some physical security requirements that's gonna have to be addressed, but a lot of it's already being addressed. And just talking about getting, electronic keyboards to access electoral board offices and equipment, because it's gotta be changed out after 24 hours on election day, so.
Oh, you need to get in an office, then.
Well, they have to
Code.
reset all the codes
Gotcha.
and stuff. It's, look, it's overkill, but if it makes the elections secure, I'm all for it.
Yeah, gotcha. All right.
Yeah, well, anything else?
Somebody just gotta remember to change the code.
You still got 10 of them with accounts,
Yeah, it's,
give or take.
yeah, it was 10 users, and I think that's more of their high level people. I think they actually have more volunteers than that help them, but
Yeah, they
that's,
do. But they're
that's,
thinking 10?
that's Amy's quote.
Gotcha. Good.
And, you
And
know,
then after the election, will the codes all change?
And password, you mean?
passwords, a very extensive password, and it changes every 90 days. So much so you couldn't use a pet name unless you had like a half a zoo or something.
I would assume that probably put on this, the electoral board, the registrar staff, and then a couple of captains.
They won't be sharing this
Right.
That's what the software's for.
past.
Yes, I do.
That's why I asked them if they have to change.
Yeah, and I'm assuming it's that company, since I just mentioned it, I may have to change it. I didn't think about that when I spit it out.
And so the password manager is a company all its own. You won't have to be.
No, yeah, it's a third party altogether. Yeah,
Okay.
But he's familiar with.
yeah, I use it right now. So
Reasonable one to work with.
oh yeah, yeah.
Am I done here? Awesome. Thanks, sir.
Hasta la vista.
Thank you.
Always good to hear great news from you, Kevin.
He always brings good news.
Oh. Ray of sunshine.
Good luck with all your decisions, and you need anything, call Danny or Linda.
Good night.
Mr. Chairman, the next item is related to the PSA. And so Mike Mazzolini came by to chat with me a little bit about upcoming expenses, debt levels, those kind of things related to the PSA. And handed me these pieces of paper. Apologies for my notes on all of them, but it's what he left off with us. And the reason I'm bringing this to your attention is because, of course, the PSA continues to have a request before you to defer their $22,000 approximate payment on their $307,000 loan the county took out on their behalf. In addition to that, they're asking for a $50,000 essentially escrow account or fund reserve. So if something like Oxford Street happens again, there would be funding available. They have made that request of both you all and the town. Of course, the town didn't take out a loan for them, so they don't have that ask. And so he came by to talk to us about talk to me about that and also walk through kind of how they plan to expend the funds that they've already received. And so that's 778,000, I believe that's the neighborhood of the amount of money that you all took of your ARPA funds to put into the PSA. In addition to that, I checked with Andrew at the town, and the town has committed 225,000 of their ARPA funds to the PSA. And they've also, let's see, let's go back, double check, because there was one more piece to that. Yeah, roughly 225,000 out of their ARPA funds, and then gave them 35,000 in a budget line item last year. And I believe it is still under consideration to do the same. And of course, so those two total about $1.1 million, essentially 1.1, 1.2. And then in addition to that, of course, you'll see on here the additional funds. The second page is the new award that they were given. So that is a grant of $973,355, and then an additional loan of $501,425 for a total of $1.474 million. And they my understanding is Mr. Booth, I believe, is knowledgeable about this as well. So right now, the assumption is a 20-year at about 1.6%. And so that leads to an annual payment of about $32,000. So that's kind of how much money that they have brought in, and you'll see the cost of all the projects that are being considered. And so he just wanted to let you know about that. They will probably at some point come back to you all and talk a little bit more about, again, moving around some of the funds that you all committed between projects based on what it turns out they might be able to spend the grant money on as opposed to what you all gave them. But in terms of why I'm bringing it up during our budget meeting, I wanted to make you aware of this will have an impact, potentially have an impact on the county budget and school budget. And again, you'll have two members of the PSA here, so they know a lot more about this than I do, but my understanding was their plans include a 5% increase for residential and then a 30% increase in non-residential. It's commercial, but it's yeah. And so, and you see the comparison is the third sheet here that Mike left with me compared to other areas. And so if you do the line item with the arrow, which is the 5% plus the 30%, that generates about $180,000. Of that, somewhere in the neighborhood of $30,000 will come from the county and schools. Because I asked the schools to go back and based on their current usage and their current bill, their current bill is around $62,000, so 30% increase in that is 18.8. And then we've gone back and looked at our bills for us, the courthouse, the library. Even Mr. Booth was smart to point out that we're renting some spaces for the drug court, and because some of that has some commercial space, they are likely on the commercial list. So wanted to make you aware of that. It's not a full penny or anything like that, but $30,000 is a significant amount. So wanted to bring that to you all's attention as we go forward. And I don't know, I don't want to put you all on the spot, but part of the reason that they are wanting to do this has to do with a target of debt service ratio. And my understanding is the goal would be at least 1.3, which is your last sheet here. So to get to that neighborhood, you'll see the different things that were considered, 5 and 20%, 5 and 30%. I will note, I did ask Mike about, does this include the $307,000 that the town or that the county has taken out, and it does not. So this is all outside that is included in their debt ratio, because for the measure, they don't have to include what the county has taken out. So that's kind of our conversation. You all might have more to add.
And the rate of increase, the $501,000 loan is gonna be a VRA loan.
Yeah.
It's the same circumstances as the previous loan. We have to meet that ratio by taking on that additional 500, it's raising that ratio up. And they're estimating it at minimum of 1.3, but it's probably higher.
And, I came this close
And it's
to voting no. And, I was the last, well, not the last one called, but I had some real issues. I had some issues with the grant loan together. I was not wild about that at all. But it appeared that if you just went for the grant money, even though our projects are all shovel-ready, we probably wouldn't have got anything. And it's almost like the state was like trying to, well, we won't get into it, but they, well, we can get into it, yeah.
Because what happened was,
It was,
the ones that was only grant, all went to great bigger jurisdictions.
Yeah.
And actually happened, were tied up before we even knew what was going on.
so the littler counties have to incur a loan to get the kind of money that these bigger counties could have absorbed much easier. And we all know the state of the PSA, and to have that kind of money to start fixing things. I do want to also say that I'm really pleased with the lead that Mike and Patrick and Teresa are taking in making sure that they communicate back to us how they're changing what they may be using our monies for. I think that's really, that's a really good open communication between both boards, and I just really appreciated that. But yeah, I had some real issues with the, with the loan and the grant monies, but how do you turn away that kind of money? And I just don't know that, you know, saddling 5 and 30, I mean, I could have gone a little bit easier with 5 and 20, but the writing was on the wall that if I had even approached 5 and 20, it probably would have died for lack of a second.
Well, I think I was the only one that voted no on the whole process.
Right.
So,
Yep.
Well, and the only other thing that I would note about this at this point is, you know, to get to our top commercial folks, it's really, I think the Country Store and Mickey G's are like in the top 10. So, you know, it will be an issue for, yes, all of those folks. So there's also kind of an economic development component
There is, but
to all this as well.
you can't put it on the residents. And the residents have been shouldering the brunt of the increases so far.
Yes, Mike shared with me in our discussion that pretty much most of the bills to residential are flat. They're pretty much the same. There's a de minimis amount, and that is the amount of most bills.
But they don't even, they're single, elderly, they don't use residential.
So the other thing I did ask Mike to see if he could go back and get together for us is what their seepage percentages are.
Right.
So of course, part of where they've spent a lot of the funds to date has been to line a lot of leaking pipes. And so as you all probably know, when you work with water systems, you want to maximize the amount that you're pumping that you can actually bill for. So I worked with another jurisdiction and another part of the state that at one point they were losing almost more around 25%. So 25% of their water was leaking out. And so they were cleaning it, preparing it, and then it was just watering the grass along the way. So in their particular project, they managed to get theirs down to 7%. They had the environmental folks at the state level had some concerns with them. So that was part of why they did those things. But so I've asked them to kind of go back and see if they can pull information to see are they at least being able to charge more for the clean water they make? And so he was going to go see what kind of records. And so that would help you all understand the investment to date. Has that been helpful to their bottom line? Hopefully it is. Too much water sometimes. So that's the update there. There aren't any more questions about that. And then Kim was going to talk to you a little bit more about the health insurance deductible.
Oh.
Thank you. I did. Seems like a lot of more. Something to sure look forward to. So
Here's another reason.
yeah. So, Belinda actually brought up, it was a discussion with regards to a healthcare card, for the deductible. And I wanted to also either continue with that conversation if that's something. I've looked at a few, there's costs, there's percentage cost of, but also an opportunity where if that's still something you might want to do, it doesn't necessarily have to be a card. If we want to assist with the increase from going from a plan 250 to 500, giving them maybe July paycheck, first paycheck, a one-time here, whether that's towards the increase, whether that's half of it because it's no longer 250. So that is another option. That would be one time. There's no additional fees. It won't, if it's 200,000, it's not gonna be 200,000 plus the fee to have the card and be affiliated with the intent to assist with that additional copay or premium, excuse me. So,
Does that get taxed?
it would. Because I've been,
It would be like, it'd be more like a one-time bonus.
correct. That is correct. And that's how it would be.
It'd be up to them.
Grown ups. Yes, yes. So, and it also gives, either way, you have the opportunity. It could be if you wanted to do originally we spoke about 250 because that was the change. So that could still be the number, could be less, could be, whatever, but it could be a one-time bonus with the intent to assist with that change for medical purposes. But again, big boys and girls spend the way you'd like, but that's what the intent is.
What was the percentage of people that had the 250 plan?
It's mostly, it's
It's
most of
most
what,
everybody.
that is correct. Let me see, hold on, I could give you that.
So this would be a significant bonus.
You don't get to see that. That's the magic one right there.
For the people that, 250 to 500.
Which is a lot of, like almost everybody.
50, okay, so you have right now it would be 53 people.
Over there. Okay.
53 people,
250.
no, I'm sorry, excuse me, 62 people. I saw the.
15,000. So just as an investment of $15,500 to give that bonus, because that would be more economically feasible than retraining one person who left over, potentially replacing a person who left over insurance.
Absolutely. Absolutely, without a doubt. Almost, I mean, 1 or 2 people.
Recruitment time,
Yeah,
training,
absolutely.
screening.
So I just wanted to, I don't know if that's a continued discussion I have now, but I wanted to throw that option. Sorry?
I don't know that many people would leave over their deductible, 250 to 500. I guess for the things that happen.
I don't know. I mean, I think more of the conversation is what's kind of increasing. It's not so much the single employee, it's the dual families are starting to creep up. The environment's changing. The pool of employees are changing, the dynamics are changing, and that's been more of a discussion. So, but if, now, and that's the other part, is it just the people that were affected by the 250? Or is it, I don't know. I don't know how you want to do that either. So, because that was brought up last time as well.
Yeah. Right.
There's something
that we took the option twenty.
you got other questions, maybe just go ahead.
Oh, yeah.
Because when I pay my deductible on that therapy, and I said, you know, 2 kids up front.
And they got to pay
That girl
500.
said I'd shield for that. Because I don't think she's what her deductible is. It was on
Yeah, she might be on a high deductible plan.
We have approximately 109 people presently. I do know that it will increase. I think it actually it's probably 110 now, because I onboarded someone who opted for family plan. And I already know 2 people that will be in addition coming on in July. One is turned 26 and one did not opt when they onboarded, but will be taking it once open enrollment comes.
Coming off of mommy and daddy's plan, huh?
One of them, yes.
Yeah.
The other one, just dynamics changed.
Right.
So, that would be the total number of presently who has insurance.
Well, it saved us some money.
Yeah.
But, put it on the backs of people. So, I don't know.
It didn't cost us as much as it would. Which way to look at it?
I don't know.
This, if I might, this is something we would need you to all to make a decision about, because when we do open enrollment next week, we'll need to let people know what they're,
And this would be a one-time.
That would be up to you.
Yeah,
That
I'm
was
just
the
saying.
intent. The intent was, original intent was the card, that's how this discussion became
Yeah.
about. I was just giving you other options.
We wouldn't do this every year.
Well, how much do you save by removing the 250?
We saved,
55?
let me see,
109? 109?
saved
I did 120, I was generous.
You rounded up.
I do.
we saved approximately close to like $50-something thousand.
Yeah, I think it was 55 the
Yeah,
last time
it's
I
50
remember hearing it.
Actually, here.
How much was it? 120?
If you do 120 people
Yeah.
and give them each the 250, it's $30,000. So we still have made a net savings.
Net 25.
Yes, a net savings.
Or you could do 200. You know what I mean? I know the initial was that change, and
The expense for the employees who are on the other plans went up also for their cost.
Yeah, plan.
Right. So, and that wasn't our
Am I
choice.
gonna have to stop paying?
no. Yeah.
Okay to work here.
Thanks. So,
$250 if they were.
I guess not, since, I mean, we kind of, that's kind of how we operate here. We try to not,
At least it sort of helps ease that burden this year.
yeah,
You know,
can't promise it.
Can't promise it'll be done again next year, but at least.
We can look at it, but,
If you need one, I'll make it, yeah.
sounds like window wants for you, yeah.
I'll make that into a motion.
I'll second that.
It's $250 per.
Benefited employee.
Across the board.
So,
Does that just come into like a paycheck bonus, is that it?
that's correct,
Okay.
yeah. So I just want to make sure I'm clear. It's 250 on July 1st, whomever has enrolled, changed, whatever that is. The July 1st, when they're open enrollment, they would, that July, last day of July, first paycheck in the fiscal year 24, they would receive a $250 one-time bonus for the intent to assist with, right,
Insurance,
insurance.
but we could not control that, but that is what our intent is.
Yeah, what they do with that, but that's, that's,
Correct. Well, it's in.
fiscal year 24. 24 budget year, July of 23, yes.
So they actually get it August 1st or.
Last day of July. Last day of July.
Motion second, your discussion. Call the roll.
All right, on the motion to provide to employees in July of 2023 as part of the 24 fiscal year, a $250 one-time bonus per benefited employee across the board to assist with the increased cost of insurance deductibles. Okay, Ms.
I think that was word per word.
It was, okay.
Insurance cost and
Increased insurance cost and deductibles. Thank you. Mr. Booth,
Yeah.
Ms. Bechtel,
Yes.
Ms. Cookenbeck,
yes.
Mr. Cox,
Yes.
and Mr. Turner.
Yes.
All right. That's approved. Thank you. So you have 26 minutes till your next meeting. I don't have anything else unless you want to. Till your regular meeting. And your dinner's here.
You're ready.
I'll make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
I'll second.
Okay, on the motion to adjourn the April 25th Board of Supervisors Budget Workshop until our regular meeting at 6 p.m. Ms. Bechtel?
Yes.
Ms. Cookenbeck?
Yes.
Mr. Cox? Mr. Booth?
Oh, yeah.
And Mr. Turman? All right.